Robert, for you, I wanted to ask you, how do you deal with the guys at the gym? You know, maybe you just flex your muscles and then walk away. I don't know. Do you
I just smile. No, first of all, I want to say, I want to give a 30-second background of where I come from. Some of you know, some of you don't. I grew up on a farm. My parents worked and still work in the animal science department at Agriculture University. I was the smallest kid in my class growing up, absolutely determined to be like He-Man, like Hulk Hogan. That's what I wanted throughout my life. But when I was 14, I was 89¼ pounds, and I was, you know, maybe a little bit discouraged. And that was in 8th grade. And because of my sister's influence, I became vegan 2 years later. And I had everybody you can imagine, from family, you know, coming from farming backgrounds, to friends, saying this is never going to work, to even myself. Because I was so small. I was 120 pounds when I became vegan, and I wanted it so bad. You know, I said I was going to be muscle magazines and all these different things, and I learned something back then. I learned that if I wanted something bad enough, if it meant something to me that was deep enough, I could outwork anybody on the planet to get what I wanted to get done. And I used that same approach with activism and everything else. And I went from 120 pounds to 195 pounds in a pretty short period. I mean, just a matter of years, and ended up in millions of magazines, from Flex magazine, you know, with all the big steroid bodybuilders talking about vegan bodybuilding in those magazines, to all the vegetarian ones and everything else. But the reason I get that background is because I want to talk about meaningful decisions we make in our lives. And for me, December 8th, 1995 changed my life forever. It changed everything about my career, my activism, my outreach, and how I interact with people at the gym. Very much like John and a few other people have the approach of, I'm going to be nothing but positive. I'm going to do nothing but lead by positive example. I'm going to do nothing but show that, yeah, I was never this 200-pound guy all the time. You should see my book, the Evolution of a Vegan Bodybuilder, from when I'm age 10, you know, to 16 to 20 when I started lifting weights, to, you know, to last year when I was in 5 competitions getting first place in Alicia Silverstone's book, because I did what I needed to do to make that happen, as a strong statement for veganism. So at the gym, I just, you know, I lead by example as often as possible. And like days like today, when I've taken months off from training to write my book, 15 hours a day, make that the best resource that I can, you know, I'll wear a jacket or something because I don't have all the muscles I did, you know, a year ago or throughout the past few years, when I could let my t-shirt for vegan bodybuilding and fitness speak for itself when I'm in the gym with 100-pound dumbbells. And actually, Chef Tigray took one of the photos on the cover of my book back 2005 up in Canada. So I think leading by example is important. And actually, I want to ask everybody in this room a question, and I want you to do this, and I want you to be very, very serious about it. Like I said, everything for me changed based on important decisions I made in my life. And one of the most important questions I think we can ask ourselves is one that Mark Twain asked. And I think I want you to think about this as it relates to your health, your wellness, activism, your relationships, even your job or school. And it's the idea that 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the things you did do. The decisions you didn't make, the things you didn't say to someone who needed to hear them, that could have extended their life, could have saved a ton of lives. The things you didn't do because what, you were scared, or you didn't care, or because someone in our lives who we trusted said we were never good enough, we were never capable, not pretty enough, not tall enough, not strong enough. All these apostrophes, I can't, I won't, I don't, and we turn those around. I can, I will, I do, and I do it today. And so when you get home, think about that on the way home, that forget about Mark Twain 20 years from now, 2 years from now. You don't want to be saying what might have been. How did I change my life? How did I help somebody else change their life? How did I save that life when I had the opportunity? All I had to do was make a positive change. Because every day that you delay making that change, you delay that achievement, you delay that outcome. Every single day. We have 1,440 minutes in a day. What are you going to do with it? And when you get home, I want you to ask the question Steve Jobs asked, that Gary Vaynerchuk asked. Look yourself in the mirror, find a mirror, and say, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? Regardless of whatever obstacles are there, whatever shortcomings you think you have, what people have told you, what matters to you, so much that you dedicate your life to it. And I want you to do that. with all the passion and enthusiasm in the world, and you're going to love it. And it's going to change the world, because that's what changed the world, in my example. And that's what I do with vegan bodybuilding. I need to throw this out there, because it hasn't been said since I got here, and again, I apologize for being late. I've been in 5 airports. What are we doing now? I think there's a much more sense of urgency that we need to do something, because there's suffering that goes on all the time, and I see it all the time. We're all aware of it all the time. And if you don't know about that, then we need to visit farm animals, I think, more, and spend time with them and look at them in the eyes. I flew in from New Orleans, where I was out there in Mississippi. I was out in Louisiana and Mississippi talking about veganism to people who didn't know anything about it. They didn't know even what soy milk was, or they didn't know where you could get protein other than food, from animals directly, just from meat directly. So for me, I have a really strong sense of urgency to get people to know about suffering right away and to act on that. And that's through books, that's through outreach, that's through speaking, that's through being here tonight, it's through traveling, it's through writing articles, but most importantly, it's through taking action, what we do every day. It's with our dollars, and it's with what we put in our mouth and what we choose not to put in our mouth. And so anyone on the fence, regardless, on the panel here, I would say today is your December 8th, 1995, like it was for me. Today is the day you take action and make it happen, and today is the day we start to reduce animal suffering and cruelty across the board, and we inspire others all along the way. And you can do it. It's a healthy way to do it. Primary sources of nutrition come from plant-based whole foods, and it starts now, because it's that important. Bad foods naturally go out because you start getting full, you start having more energy, you start feeling better. You naturally don't want bad food. You bring more food in, bad foods go out. Another thing, fundamentally important, because I'm in the fitness and health industry, a lot of people change their diet in whatever way, but drastically change their diet and for some reason stop exercising. Right? And they wonder why they got skinny, or why they lost muscle, or why this. You have to keep up with your exercise program if that's what you were doing before. Don't fear the change. You're eating healthier foods. You need exercise to continue to support where you were before that drastic change in nutrition. Also, a lot of times, that's why I say you got to add stuff in initially, because what happens? You have your regular diet, you drop out animal foods and don't replace them with anything. There goes your 2,500 calories a day down to 1,000, and you wonder why you're dizzy and losing weight and not feeling well, like I did initially. You got to think about these things, and they should be part of it. And also, I've been trying to word it in my head, and I think I'm missing a word, but I want to at least present this theme, that nothing tastes as good as bad as pain and suffering feels. We owe that to everyone that shares the planet with us. And that's extremely important. And it's egotistical to think otherwise. And I want people to think about that and make some changes. And it's easy. And it starts today.